I'm not sure if anyone can hear the music. I always play it and I'm always thinking like exactly what's going on with the music, but everybody who's with me jam into it. I was like, dun, 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 dun. I feel like I try to create the vibes every single time. What is happening, y'all? I am so excited for this one. I got my dogs coming up here today, Jimmy and Alex. If you don't know them, you're gonna know them, and it's gonna be such a fun session. Me and these guys have had a chance to like hang out in Palo Alto, so in San Francisco area. They have done their own things in like Fargo, North Dakota. So these are guys that I deeply respect and I'm excited to have today. But everybody, welcome to Thumbstop Live. If this is the first time that you are tuning in, what I am going to recommend is that you check us out on X or Twitter, whatever you're calling it, but at Thumbstop Live. You know why? Because we are live every Monday to Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern, and we're bringing all the voices that you know and love in our creative strategy community to the stage to talk not only creative strategy, but also peel back the curtain on why people are wired the way that they're wired. So there's a lot of good things that we can start to make happen on these ones. Okay, everybody? Amazing. I'm your host who does the most. My name is Evan. I am the head of partnerships at Motion. The reason that we do these things at Motion is honestly because we want to support the community and all the different endeavors that we typically take on. So what does that mean? So that means at Motion, we are the home of creative strategy. So we want to make sure that everyone here who's tuning in is able to gain a creative edge without any issues. So that means in the world of creative strategy, now with AI, how are you able to come up with the best ideas possible to ultimately make more winning ads that generate you more dollars? So before I get Jimmy and Alex up here in a couple minutes, I just wanted to showcase to you all what this starts to mean, okay? Fantastic. Give me 2 seconds. Sorry about that, everybody. Just running into those technical issues as we always do. Okay, so like I was mentioning, big thing here is how do you gain that competitive edge and the creative edge so you can start to make more winning ads. So the biggest thing that I wanted to talk through here is on the motion side of things. How does that start to come to life? Okay. And instead of sharing just one tab, I'm going to share a bunch of tabs so I don't forget which screens you all are looking at. Fantastic. So I don't know who's been in our world before, but essentially within Motion, we make it super visual so creative teams and data heads are on the same page of trying to determine what to do next. But in the age of AI, the question becomes, how do I use AI to come up with new winning ideas that are going to make the best ads possible? And the really cool thing that we've started doing is working with people like Jimmy and Alex to start turning like, I don't know, one millionth of their brain into an agentic workflow. So that means here you can see all the different types of folks that we're working with, including Jimmy and Alex, like we see down here. And once we're starting to work with these folks, essentially what that enables us to do is that within any report or any creative, you're able to run tasks that have been developed by each of these individuals. So that means by looking into our task system, you can see I can do things like brainstorm new ideas, analyze my ads, find the next iteration, and track my competitors. And you can tap into any of the minds that you start to see here. So let's isolate down for Jimmy and Alex at this point. So you can see how we can do all these different things like find new customer personas, generate new winning ads and new formats, all these different pieces. And the really cool thing is like once you start to run these tasks for each of these individuals, what you're then going to be outputted with is essentially a brief. So what that means is in this specific report that you can see here, what I'm now looking at is I'm able to say, okay, sweet. I've uploaded my reviews and Jimmy and Alex have now conducted a social listening analysis. They've literally dove in to say, all right, what's going on here and what are those different pieces you should dive into? So now what I have is a dedicated brief that I can work with my team on. So we're developing assets with these different headlines and hooks in mind. So literally coming down to the actual hooks that we can use. You know what I mean? Why this is so cool too is because for each of you, you might be wondering, it's like, this is super interesting, but ultimately, how can I make sure that this is hyper related to my brand and not just individual, or not just the individual reviews in a vacuum? So the cool thing that you can do here is if I scroll on back to the top, you can either share this with any team member that you see fit. So check this brief out, and then you have a dedicated share link that you can give to people. Or if there's more context that you need to add, you can actually share this with ChatGPT. So I know so many of you are operating every single day in ChatGPT. And what we are doing is we're providing you with a marked down version of this report. So that means it's not a direct report. It includes the information, of course, but it also includes information like where they went to look to get this different insights. So how did they analyze the different reviews? What did they weight more than other pieces? All of these different things to tell the story. Because once you have this information, I can literally copy it to my clipboard. And then if I pull up ChatGPT, what I'm then able to do is I can literally paste it in here. So you see all of these different pieces. And then by uploading this, I can now honestly just chat back and forth with this information because I've given it to ChatGPT in a way that it can understand based on Jimmy and Alex's thinking. And then with this information here, I can start to add my own brand context. So it's like, I would like to update this with the information in mind that our target demo is males between the ages of, let's say, 25 and 34 or something like that. So now I can actually have the associated dialogue back and forth. And of course, we're going to let this reload just because we're getting suggestions based off that additional markdown. But now you can see I can give them the additional context like so, and it will make updates and recommendations based off of that. So it's becoming way easier across the board just to be able to allow, not only these insights to be added to the reports that have been run off those tasks, but you can now bring it to ChatGPT and you can have a conversation back and forth. Once you have this information, of course, you can start to use ChatGPT to have the dialogue necessary to then be able to output to the different areas. But it's a really smooth way to be able to tie the story together. Okay, everybody? Fantastic, y'all. Fantastic. I wanted to give insight into that because, like I mentioned, we are all looking for that creative edge. Anyone who's running paid ads, we know that you have pretty ambitious goals when it comes to paid social. And to hit those paid social acquisition goals, you need to make amazing creative. And that's why I wanted to walk you through the different ways of gaining that edge. And what we chatted about is for the two dudes that we're going to have joining us in a little bit, Jimmy and Alex, they have different tasks that allow you to be able to do that pretty seamlessly at the end of the day. Okay, y'all? Fantastic. I think one of the other pieces that we're thinking through as we wait for the guys to join here is honestly just trying to think through, like, for anyone who's tuning in, what you all want to know. So if you are tuning in across all of the different platforms, so we are streaming across LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Instagram Live. If you have any questions, throw those into the chat because I'm sure these guys will be able to pick them up and knock them out the park. Okay. So we've had them join at a couple different times. I'm going to welcome them one at a time. But the first dude I'm going to bring up today is my guy, Jimmy. Welcome to the stage.
Yo, what's going on, Evan? How are you?
Hey, I'm good, man. I'm living the dream. How are you?
I am doing well, just another day in paradise.
Another day in paradise in Fargo, right? Fargo, North Dakota.
In Fargo, you know it.
I know how it goes, man. I like this. Is this like a new haircut you've done, or is this starting to grow out, or what am I seeing?
A little bit. I got it cut this morning, actually. Wanted to keep the top just a little longer, so we went with that look today. Dude, it's so frustrating. Like, I mean, I think you get it. My hair just grows straight sideways. So like you're so limited with the options of what you can do, but yeah, gotta keep it, different every time.
Man, my hair grows like very straight, very thick, and forward. So I need to play to that. So if anything, what I'm doing is I have like this hat right beside me, and then I'll literally throw like the hat on before I jump on a call. I'm like, all right, I want hat hair. Like that's what I'm going for. Bring me back. So I know exactly what you mean, man. I know exactly what you mean. I think Alex might be running into some technical difficulties. Let me shoot him a message real quick. Try incognito. Yeah, something's up with Restream. Restream in general, I think, runs into some different issues. So we're trying to figure out what makes sense. But let's bring Alex up here too, just to see how it is, see if it works, and if it doesn't, it's all good. It don't work. Alex, can you hear us? No way. No way. No way. Okay. Well, we'll bring him back after. But Jimmy, I am curious. Well, I'm not curious. I know who you are. But for our audience who's tuning in, I guess what I'd love is for the people who don't know, if you can bring them up to speed on like with a quick tell me about yourself, some of your work experience, what you're most well known for, honestly, anything we could take from there.
Yeah, no, I got you. So yeah, I mean, my journey to get where we're at, and I can go a little longer because Alex isn't here. In high school, I got into like the sports Instagram world. So this is like circa 2016, was growing sports Instagram accounts. Ended up getting acquired by a sports media company out in LA, and ended up running their account with like, I don't know, it was like 290 some thousand followers. So that's where I first got like a taste of the like social strategy world. And fast forward a couple years, 2019, I remember I was sitting in my college dorm, and a friend came over and he's like, dude, have you ever heard of TikTok? And I'm like, I've heard of it, but I've never used it. And he's like, well, check this out. Like I posted 10 videos. One of them went viral and I'm up to like 12,000 followers already. And so like, I just take his phone and I start scrolling. I'm like, oh, wow. Yeah, this is totally where the future is going to be heading. And so ended up with the same person I was doing the Instagram stuff with, starting up a TikTok agency. And we were helping brands to grow organically on social. And like, because we were early and young and we had experience on Instagram, we got to work with like Amazon and Lyft and Olipop and Athletic Brewing Company and a lot of like emerging D2C brands. So it was a ton of fun, and did that for a year and a half. And then I got connected to a guy named Pranav. Pranav is the one that introduced me to the world of AI. So call it like end of 2021. We were looking to do some sort of like tech play and evolve from just an agency. And we were talking to people. I got connected to Pranav. Pranav, I would say, is the smartest person I've ever met. So when I met him, he was 22, had just graduated from like UC Berkeley, computer science, electrical engineering, had interned at Tesla on their self-driving car team, ended up like getting poached by Tesla's former chief intelligence officer, which is like the head of AI, to join his startup. So he was like employee number 10. And I think last fall that company got valued at like $4 billion. So he was the director of AI while also being an undergrad. And when I got connected to him, he was thinking like, oh, am I going to go get my PhD, or I kind of want to join like an early stage startup? So he introduced me and he showed me the first DALL-E, if you guys remember, like DALL-E, which is OpenAI's image generator. So he showed me that and he's like, dude, I think video is eventually going to get to this space. And again, this is like 2021. So this is super early. So he ended up coming on as a co-founder, and we had this concept of like, hey, maybe we could use AI to generate the type of content that we just create for these brands for organic. And then, over time we evolved into the paid world and everything. So we ran that startup together for about 2.5 years. We were probably early. The quality of the video and just where AI and large language models were at probably was not yet ready for that idea to flourish. But nonetheless, that's where I learned all about AI, went deep into like the true fundamentals, but then also the applicable side of like, how should brands be using it? Where is this space going to evolve? And so now essentially Alex and I do a lot of consulting with companies on how they can use AI to better just manage and create ads and just, yeah, overall be more efficient. So it's a lot of fun. We work with some pretty big companies, which has been an interesting experience. But yeah, that's a little bit about who I am in my journey.
Huge, man. Shout out to Pranav, first of all. Damn, I don't think I knew that. I don't think I
Yeah,
knew that was the initial connect and the initial introduction. That's huge.
yeah, yeah, dude, it's
I,
crazy.
I feel like I have a bunch of questions, but I think let's try to get Alex up here, see how it's working. Alex, we live? We're okay? Oh God. Oh no. No, no. The mic
Can't hear you.
is not working. The mic is not working.
Oh shoot.
Jimmy switching up views. If
Yeah,
anyone from Restream is watching this,
yeah,
figure it out, buddy.
holy cow.
Figure it out. All right. We need help here. Jesus. We can't hear you, man. I'm sorry. We can't hear you.
We'll get him at some point.
We'll get him in. We'll get him in. I guess, Jimmy, like what I'm curious about here is like, I think when you describe the college path and what you've been up to, there's a traditional path of life to be able to follow. Someone's like, all right, I'm gonna go to school, work at one of these big companies, follow this like corporate path or whatever it might be. You, from your journey, have always been thinking ahead of what this can mean for you. Like, when did that entrepreneurial bug initially strike for you?
Yeah, it's a good question. I love to tell this story. So it took me probably until I was an entrepreneur to realize that like I probably had been it was probably a part of me from when I can remember. Physics class, my junior year, we had to do this project where it's like the egg drop. So I think you have to be like 10 feet high, and you get like wooden kind of like chopstick looking things or whatever, wooden spools. You get tape, you get yarn, and essentially you have to create this apparatus that the egg is going to be in, and you have to drop that, and the egg has to survive. If it cracks or if it breaks, like you literally fail. And instantly, like we got the handout and the sheet and the document of like, this is what the project is. And I just start looking for loopholes right away of like, how could we like essentially just do this in a way better way and think outside the box and think creatively. And I remember seeing something that like, it never actually said it had to be dropped from 10 feet. It just said it had to be dropped. And so what we ended up doing was like taking the wooden, like whatever, wooden blocks, if you will,
Yeah.
chopstick things, and we just like taped those together and built like a tiny little holder for the egg, and we dropped it from like a centimeter off the ground. So we were able to just like lower it down until it was a centimeter off the ground, and then we dropped it. And so like I like looking back, I think there were a lot of those sort of stories in my life that like probably made me realize that just the way that I think, the way that I process things, and I love just trying to do things different and out of the norm, that entrepreneurship was probably going to be the right path for me. I'm also someone that's kind of weird in the sense of like I do like to do hard things too. So like the concept of not being able to make a lot of money for X amount of years, having to sacrifice a lot of different things and all of that just to like go on this fun adventure of entrepreneurship, or maybe not always fun, but the adventure of entrepreneurship was something that like never really bothered me. Like I would have rather done that. I also had an internship for like 3 months at a bank after my freshman year of college, and I was miserable. So yeah, I had some early signs out of the gates that I don't think the corporate life was going to be for me.
That's so funny, Mac. Honestly, like when you reflect back, things become so obvious.
Yeah.
I remember I also worked a corporate job out of school, and I had to wear like a suit and tie every day. I had longer hair, so I'd have to do my hair all nice, and like it'd be freezing in the winter, like that type of deal. And I'm like, I'm supposed to like this. This is supposed to be fun. Like, what's going on? But then when you have to live every single day, it's like, wait, this is soul sucking a little bit. Like, I don't know if I enjoy this. And then having to reinvent what that means for you is a really interesting journey.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay, I don't know if we're going to be able to get Alex here today, which is unfortunate, but it's all good. I feel like you had so many things that we can talk about. And of course, like we just bounce off each other here. Yeah. So I think what I'm curious about is like the entrepreneurial bug hit you nice and early, and like reflecting back, it's easier to know what's going on. But I guess like in your world, you've had different ventures now of, okay, TikTok agency, one other thing with Pranav you had mentioned, and what you have going on with Alex now. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. And now we're catching you at like AI's caught up, hot, taken off. But it's not always that way. When you're building, there's pain in that initial struggle. So what I'm curious about is like along that journey, was there any specific pain that you're like, damn, I don't know how I'm going to get through this one? And then how did you end up getting through it?
Yeah, I mean, so that journey with Pranav, we ended up raising like 1.5 million in venture funding for like essentially like a seed round. And January of 2024, we kind of came to the decision of like, we're not going to be able to get this to a point of like having a product that's going to be able to generate us revenue. Our burn, how much we're losing every month is this amount. And those two paths, like we're going to either have to go out and try to raise, but like, what are we going to raise off of? And just like the tough things. And so having to then a few weeks later, like talk with the board, let them know people that invested, like we had a decent amount of angels. So people that invested like their own personal money into this concept and belief of like us. And then also having to go to like the employees and letting them know like, hey, this is it. That was really hard. That was something that, it took a while to bounce back from just like confidence of like you as an entrepreneur and everything. So yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like entrepreneurship is arguably one of the hardest mental journeys that you're going to have to go on, because it's not always up and to the right. And that's why if you can stick it through and if you can make it out, like you normally do end up on that other side. But it's just a matter of like how long are you willing to stay in the fight, and how many rounds are you willing to go to where you could just be getting your teeth knocked in a ton. So yeah, lots of hard lessons along the way. Lots of identity stuff that you got to work through when a startup or a company doesn't work. But yeah, you got to keep pushing forward.
And speak to the young entrepreneurs out there about like that journey. Like, how did you like find something to ground you ultimately?
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing is in any good adventure, in any good story, there has to be an antagonist and kind of a low point in order to get people interested. And like even for you, like if it's just easy, it's not fun. Like I love the example of a video game. If you ever played video games, the second that you beat the game, quote unquote, it no longer became fun. Like the whole enjoyment of a video game comes when like you're trying to beat a certain level and it's really hard and it takes you 10, 15, 20 times before you finally do it. And when you do, you look back and you're like, I would never want to have to try to beat that level again. I did it once and like, thank goodness. But then you get to the end of the game and you realize like, oh, what is next? And you realize like the journey is what is enjoyable about entrepreneurship. And so I think just like taking the surfer mentality of like, whatever is going to come at you, whatever is going to hit you, like you just got to ride it out. And keep getting back and realizing like that's just going to make for a better story one day. Because if there's nothing bad or difficult or challenging that you go through, the story's going to kind of be boring. So I think that's a really good thing to at least ground yourself to, is like everything can be turned into a learning lesson and a gift and an opportunity if you just are able to find it.
That's huge, man. That's super huge. And I am wondering, it's just like, what was the business offering? And as you reflect back, are there any tweaks that you think you could have made that would have actually made it go up into the right?
Yeah, I think a great example. So we were trying to use AI to generate like effective video ads or organic content. And we were trying to go like, now in today's terms, it's really easy for people to understand. We were trying to go the VO route where it's like enter in a text prompt and that's going to be generated. And we didn't necessarily want to go the avatar route, which is like the ARC ads approach, if you're familiar with that tool, or like Synthesia HeyGen or any of the others that exist, because it's like, oh, everyone can do that. Like, you're just building on top of an API. We were trying to create like our own custom model. And I think, like, looking back, if we just would have been a little scrappier in terms of just like, let's get a product out of the door instead of like create something completely groundbreaking. I mean, I think we could have been in a similar situation where ARCADS is at today, which, they're absolutely crushing it. And Romaine's a great guy. But yeah, I mean, hindsight's always going to be 2020. Like, you can look back and think like, yeah, we should have done this or that. But that's the fun of entrepreneurship, is you're never going to be perfect, and sometimes it does take just, if we would have decided to do that for whatever reason, like, that's where I think there is an element of luck in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Timing too. I had Romaine on here last week, and like him walking through, I'm like, holy shit, this is incredible. But like, if he kicked off when you were trying to kick off, impossible.
Yeah.
It just wasn't there yet. So it's just like, there's a timing piece that comes out of it.
Totally.
And I want to dive more into that. But the one thing I want to talk about is like the TikTok experience. So building out the agency side. So like with a lot of these creative, what we're starting to talk about is like, how does it perform in ads, in paid advertising? But the first thing that you did, like when you built the TikTok agency, is like you were scrolling through organic, right? And like you yourself have built up a really great organic brand. Like, I'm curious if you have any thoughts around like organic social versus paid social, or anything you're willing to share.
Yeah, I mean, I think Barry's the one that really coined the terminology of like ugly ads, but ugly just means like make it blend into the organic. And that is like equally one of the most important things, is like, you have to realize that people aren't going to Facebook or going to TikTok or going to any of these platforms to look at ads. They want to look at content because they're bored and they have 10 minutes in between, meetings or on the subway or whatever it is. And so you have to make content that is going to be somewhat interesting for those people. And the best way to do that is just study what has worked organically. There's so much overlap in a good performance creative versus a good organic piece of content. And the great thing is like TikTok is the ultimate testing and signal platform, because it doesn't matter how many followers you have. If the video that I post sucks and it's not going to keep people watching, no one is going to watch it. If you have 10 followers, but you make something that's just like chef's kiss, TikTok's going to promote it, and you could have millions and millions of followers. So I love that about TikTok. Like, it's honestly not a bad practice to just like post or create something or post an ad that you're planning on running and just see what the initial signs are organically before you go and test that within the ad account. Because again, it's different, because with ads, like, you're obviously forcing people to watch. But nonetheless, like, you'll learn a lot about the retention and engagement and whatnot. So yeah, I truly think it's much easier to come from an organic perspective, to know what works organically and turn that into performance creative, than just coming from a performance creative and trying to understand why things work organically. So yeah, I'm a huge advocate of making content that just is entertaining, feels like it would be on the For You page, because that's what people are going there to do.
Yeah, man. Honestly, it's been this way for a long time, but something clicked in my mind recently. Because I think when we talk about hooks all the time, you said it earlier, but you want to like fit in with the feed or like blend in with the feed. But the concept of a hook for a long time was like stand out from the feed. It's just like, how are you making sure that like it's intriguing for someone to want to stop their scroll? But when I hear the language of like blend into the feed, it's a little bit different. And like, that's what I've been thinking about more recently than anything. And it's more of, okay, ugly means not just how to stand out, but it's like more than ever, are we trying to blend into the organic feed and how people are digesting content?
Yeah.
So
yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, it's like there, you want to have the hook, in a sense, if we take this analogy, be created like it looks like it was edited on TikTok and shot on, an iPhone. And that is way easier. That's like the element of like fitting in, but then the hook itself also needs to be really good at standing out. So it's like the content production and the editing and what it just looks like has to fit in, but the actual hook itself and the message that's where it has to follow kind of the viral principles that exist, of just something like, I think it's people overcomplicate content in a lot of ways. Like you literally are just trying to create something that people are going to want to watch. And if you create something that people are going to want to watch, whether it's organic or whether it's an ad, it's most likely gonna perform well.
This is what I think it's cool about you specifically too, because you've dipped your feet into everywhere at this point, and you are a content creator to an extent, and like the stuff that you put out. So it's like you live this every day.
Yeah.
And I guess the last question that I have on this one is some people have really strong opinions on like, hey, organic's not going to work in ads and ads aren't going to work in organic. I guess like we flirted with this, but do you have strong opinions here or anything that you'd like to share?
You know, I would just say whatever your opinion is, like let the data back it up more than anything else. Like if you've tried a ton of different and you feel like you have truly given, you know, the organic style of content within an ad a fair shot, and it just has not worked for your brand or your industry or your product or whatever it might be, like, you know, fine. Like I totally respect that. But I would just say make sure like you have the data instead of it just being personal preference to make like very bold claims, because it's really hard to make blanket rules for all of performance marketing, because again, every company is different, every audience is different, and so yeah, it's going to vary a little bit depending on who you are and what your goals are.
Anchor in the data, baby. Anchor in the data. Anchor in the data.
You guys know that well.
Of course, man. We have to practice what we preach.
Yeah.
I've gone ahead. So I do want to jump back to like the timing, your experience with AI. And I pulled up one of your tweets from 2022.
Yeah. I saw that and I'm like, I don't even remember that I posted that.
I'm going deep into the archive, man. I'm going deep into the archive.
Yeah.
So I pulled this one up and let's read it. Marketing teams soon won't need to be 20 people wide. You'll just need one person with the vision, and the AI tools will make them become much more efficient. Man, how spot on were you?
Yeah, I know. That's a good one that I'll be able to resurface in even like 10 years, when that, you know, officially does happen.
What I am curious about though is like you were at the bleeding edge of this when we look back 3.5, 4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So what I am curious about is like when you were going to market with this type of language, how did the market react to you?
Oh yeah, people thought we were pretty crazy. Like I've even had, so you mentioned it right away, but I live in Fargo, North Dakota, and Fargo historically is usually like 5 to 10 years behind, you know, any of like the new trends that are coming out. So I've had people even come up to me, you know, within the past like 6 months, and essentially, you know, we're like, oh yeah, I remember when you were talking about that, and I just thought like you were absolutely crazy, or like there's no way that was going to happen. And then, you know, you see something like VO come out and it's like, oh wow, you know, that is going to be the future. And so yeah, people definitely thought I was crazy at the time. I think now it's easier to see that this is where we're heading. And I got a lot of hot takes around this specific concept, but yeah, right away, I think people definitely thought that I was pretty crazy. That probably is goes to show why there's only 1 retweet and 2 likes on that post.
Oh, so now time the time has gone on. The technology is caught up. Talked about some of those hot takes. Like I'm curious to know what some of those you call them hot takes, call them like evolved thoughts are at this point with the technology catching up.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can start to see a world in which one person could do the job of 10 to 15 people within a company. And the reason why I say that is because we're going to be moving towards a world in which AI agents in particular are going to be able to do some of the more important tasks. Like, for example, design. I think image gen was a very good starting point. If you don't remember, image gen is like ChatGPT's kind of evolution of DALL-E, which is like text to image. And in March, that absolutely broke the internet because they finally figured out how to get text onto an image and have it look, like it was actually all the words were spelled correctly and everything. And so as soon as that happened, that took the world by storm. And we got this glimpse of like what the future is that is going to look like, which all you have to do is enter in a text prompt. And, within the next 2 to 3 years, that's only going to get better. And so you're literally going to be able to generate any sort of image that you want. A lot of the issues that exist now are going to get cleaned up. So like that's like the design perspective. And then you have the video perspective. Same thing with Veo. You're getting very close to the point where you can type in anything that you want into Veo, and it's going to be able to have it be generated. And so that's like the video creation. There's tools coming out for like text to video editing. So you're just going to have to describe the video edits that you want, and those are going to be done. Obviously, you have arc ads, which is already taking, or avatars, AI generated and existing, and you can have them say anything that you want. And so you're going to have this world in which anything can be done from a prompt. All that matters is the ideas that you have in your head. And that is what is going to separate a really, really good marketer from someone that, probably is not going to have the greatest future, because we're going to live in a world where we're no longer constrained by how big our production budget is, how much we can pay UGC creators, the speed at which that shoot could happen. Like you're going to be able to generate anything that your mind can think of, and obviously that's legal. And you're just going to be able to we're going to live in this world where like ideas are actually going to become the gold, and the execution isn't going to matter. Knowing how to use Photoshop or Adobe Premiere Pro or any of these other platforms is not going to be a relevant skill in 5 years. And again, that's a hot take that a lot of people might disagree with, but I'm just telling you where this technology is going to go. You're not going to need to know those things. They'll help you, but as long as you have the vision of what you want created in your mind, you are going to be able to create that almost at scale, and the cost of that is almost nothing. And so as performance marketing teams, you're not going to need 3 different editors, 4 different designers, 5 different creative strategists, and like 1 head of creative strategy. It's like the head of creative strategy could work with, if you're an agency, you could work with 15 different brands. As long as they're able to come up with enough ideas, and good ideas, that is going to be the ultimate bottleneck, is like how fast can you think of good ideas versus like any of the production. So yeah, we're going to live in a pretty crazy world over the next, call it 2 to 3 years.
So this definitely can be a hot take. And I actually asked Romain about this last week too. So I'm curious to know your opinion. So let's speak about like the video editors out there, the content creators that are out there. Like, what should they be doing in this new world? Or what's your recommendation to them?
Yeah, I mean, so this is where it still matters that you have that skill set. For example, if you go to a creative or if you go to a software engineer and ask them to edit a video to look good for performance, they're not going to have a clue on what like a good edit would look like, because they just don't know that space. But if you're an editor, you know exactly what edits need to be made on a video. So all you're going to need to do is prompt like, hey, I want you to use these 6 clips. I wanted to start with this one. I wanted to use this transition. I wanted to use this background music. I wanted to use this sound effect. And I wanted, to be this this length. And you know everything, because again, that's like what an editor is like you have the end goal in your mind of what you want it to look like. And all you're going to have to do is just describe what you want that to be. And so domain expertise, like there's always going to be that role in our society. It's just we're not going to need as many. So you're not going to need 3 editors. You might just need 1. Or if the head of creative strategy knows a lot about video editing, like in theory, as long as they know what they want the outcome to look like, they could be that person. But yeah, so and I think this is timeless advice. I don't think it'll ever go away. Just become really, really good at whatever your field is. Become an expert and study and research more than anyone else would. Because if you're the best video editor, I guarantee you're going to have a job. If you're the best creative strategist, I guarantee you're going to have a job. If you're one of the best creators, I guarantee you're always going to have a job. It's just those that are in it, for like the money or don't really view it as like an art and a skill that they need to master that are going to struggle, because the really, really talented people of this world within like editing or being a creator are just going to be able to scale themselves. And that's, I think, where we are going to head, is just like the people that are really good are going to be able to do so much more work, which has always been the bottleneck that's existed today.
Talk to him. And Jimmy practices what he preaches. All right. He's not just putting like bullshit into the air. I've seen this guy print out what are you printing out again? Like, you're literally printing out the different, I want to say articles, but it's not just articles. And
Yeah.
like highlighting, going through, really mastering your domain.
Yeah. So it's like research papers from different publications on AI and just like prompting, like the true fundamentals of prompting and what an AI agent is and all that good stuff. So yeah, it's fun.
This is so interesting, because when I've the domain expertise, like I've seen a lot of the content that you and Alex put out there is so true in my mind. So true. And I think like I've been privileged to talk to a lot of creators recently in our space. And one of the things that we talk about a lot is like the levels of abstraction. So it's like, if you are a creator who's solely just taking an instruction and like filming something out and like running the edits, the edits could be a skill, but it's just like, that's a little bit at risk when we think about the longer term or even the shorter term. It's like, you are just an executor at that point. But the real goal is, how do you level up where it's not just, I accept this brief and I shoot it. It's like, okay, I got a brief. Is this the best way we can actually do it? Do we know the personas that we want to go after that this brand is talking about? Do we understand the top selling products? Do we understand the top performing ads? How can I strategize to ultimately execute at that point? And then they, like you said, become the orchestrators of being able to, whether it's an ArcAds, whether it's a different platform out there. But the goal is to level up, in my mind, on those layers of abstraction is where it goes.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, it's funny, like ChatGPT, Claude, like all the tools that are going to come out are really just like the new like a tool for creative people. Like, for example, VO. Everyone has access to VO, but the value is going to come from the creative people that know how to use it best. And again, like that's where, like I talked about, ideas are going to become everything. Knowing what to create is going to be significantly more important than how to create it. And that all comes from strategy and creative thinking, which again is something that AI is going to have a really challenging time being able to replicate and reproduce, because it's not like the fundamentals of a large language model are not around net new concepts and like being able to think of being able to think creatively. Like, that is just something that they will struggle with. And like, this is a good I guess like fundamental principle for people to know. If you think about a creative strategist and what a good creative strategist is, it's like you might all of a sudden be thinking of an ad and you might reference something that you saw on TikTok 8 months ago. And you're like, oh, that was a really interesting hook. And for some reason, that might just pop into your head as you're thinking through a new idea that you want to pull and use as like inspo for this specific, new concept that you're thinking of. AI has a limited amount of data that it can essentially recall. And the more data that it has, actually sometimes the worse that the models get. And so you start to realize how incredible the human brain is to be able to just like randomly recall something from 4 years ago or 2 years ago, or an ad that you did, on a totally different account however long ago, and think that could be a really good idea to pull in for this specific concept that I'm thinking of. AI is not going to be able to do that for hopefully a very long time. If it can do that, then like AGI we hit and it's over for everyone. But that's like the value of what a human can bring to the table, is just and that's so hard to replicate for AI. And so that is like something to just like, again, as we've talked about, like the more that you can just have these unique and creative ideas and be able to reference things from the past and just data that you have, like your personal swipe up file, if you will, the more valuable you're going to become, because that's what is going to separate you from like AI ever, quote unquote, taking your job.
Huge, man. Huge. So let's say I'm a creative team member, like content creator, editor, videographer, photographer, something like that, right?
Yep.
I have the domain expertise that
Yep.
exists. How the hell do I get started on the AI side?
That's a really good question. And I would say the best way to answer that is you need to learn the fundamentals of prompt engineering and context engineering. I think essentially what that is, in the simplest way forward, is the ability to communicate with AI and instruct AI to get the output that you want. Because if you're able to do that and you're able to have AI give you good outputs, you all of a sudden have begun to scale yourself. And that is what I think the value is going to be, especially for the people that are like good at their craft. Is like, if you can figure out how to scale yourself, you're going to be fine in the world of AI. So the fundamentals of prompt engineering, there are a lot of good resources that that exist. I don't know if like sharing links or whatever, how that would work in here, but there are some like good overviews that you can that I could share. I don't know how, but if that would be relevant. Context engineering is a newer term that has been thrown around. Prompt engineering you've been hearing for a while. Context engineering is essentially like a good example of a context document. Would just be, hey, here are the ICPs, so our ideal customer personas for our brand. And this is like from a psychological perspective, like what they do on weekends, what would make them stop and watch content, what would be on their organic feed, like whatever you can think of, just put that into a massive Google Doc. Like that alone is a very valuable context doc that then, like if you use Claude or ChatGPT, you can upload that and essentially say, like, for context, here are the people that we are targeting. So then ChatGPT knows, okay, these are the people that I need to focus on. You could also go and like take a motion report of like your top 20 winning ads, and you could use that as a piece of context as well. So now you're going from ChatGPT or Claude knowing really the very basics of who you are as a company, and now you've started to provide examples of ads that have crushed it on your account, examples of who you're trying to target, and that could just continue to go on and on and on. You could pull in a transcript of a YouTube video from Alex on talking about like how to create really good static ads, or the best type of ads that have worked for them in 2025, or whatever it might be. And then you can post that and upload that within ChatGPT and Claude. And so then the prompting comes in of like how you get it to look through those documents and what to pull from those documents and how to reply. And as you start to just do that more and more, that is how you are going to become, in my opinion, that's how you'll be a defensible creative strategist in the world of AI, is if you can just start to create a ton of those docs yourself and learn how to communicate with the models to get outputs that like you would give as a human.
Selfishly, these conversations I've been having with people have been like so helpful for me, in all honesty. Like there's so much information I'm just like downloading. So have you met Alicia on our team before? I'm not sure if you have.
I think
Maybe
once.
briefly.
Yeah.
Yeah, one time. So Alicia is a version of like domain expertise existed for sure. She was a graphic designer and then like moved to a creative strategist role. And she is now what I'd consider to be like an AI native creative strategist. And like her first step for other people was like, yo, ditch Google. like as a first step, just get used to talking to this thing at this point. And then what I've loved that you've added on top of that is just like there's frameworks and a lot of resources for structuring your prompts to interact with the LLMs in the best way possible. And then the added layer of context side, take your brain, dump it on a paper. It might not be nice, it might not be clean, but get it on there first, at least. And I think this is really actionable for the people in the audience. So that's super helpful, man. Super helpful.
Yeah. I'm telling you, like the more that you can just like even just have a list of ads that you like and why, the formats of ads that you like and why. customer reviews, what's being talked about on Reddit, what's being talked about on organic socials. Like the more data that you can just pull in, the more powerful you will realize ChatGPT and Claude can be, because they are just like, I think I like VO or ChatGPT image gen because it's such a clear visual of like, just imagine an engineer trying to prompt VO or ChatGPT image gen to create a good ad. Like they're not really going to know, unless they've studied performance marketing. They're not going to know how to do that. Or better yet, like imagine you going onto like a tool like Cursor, which is or maybe Cursor's not the greatest example, but like imagine if you had to go like, prompt to code generation, like you wanted to code something. You're not really going to know the fundamentals of what to prompt and what context to give it. Like you're just going to say, hey, I want to create a website that can looks like this and could do this, and that's all you're going to know. And then you're going to run into errors because you don't actually know like the fundamentals of how software engineering works. And so it's the same thing with creative strategy. It's like you have so much information that ChatGPT actually does not have or does not know. Like you need to assume ChatGPT is extremely dumb until you give it the information that it needs to be smart. Because that is like ChatGPT out of the box knows nothing about creative strategy. So we're doing this program of teaching creative strategists how to use AI. And one of the examples that I gave it was so there's a brand called The Perfect Jean. The Perfect Jean creates like comfy jeans for dudes, essentially is the easiest way. Very tongue-in-cheek marketing. Out of the box Claude, I asked it to write a script for The Perfect Jean. And that was pretty much it. Like no context, no prompting. And it literally thought that The Perfect Jean was geared towards women. It said like 50,000 women have purchased this and love it, or something along those lines. And it's like, that's what you need to realize, and how little AI actually knows about your brand and creative strategy. And then it's like you upload, a ton of different context stocks, how to make really good video ads, how to write a script, who our brand is, the ads that we've run in the past, how to target emotions and what emotions to target. And then it wrote this script, and it's like, what pisses me off, and like that was the hook, and like that's a really good hook that like would probably stop someone to want to like, you all of a sudden create that knowledge gap of like you told someone something and now they want to stay to figure it out. And that's like just one quick example of how adding the right context and the right prompts can make these models so much better. So yeah, little bit of a tangent there, but
when you were gonna plug the course, man, when I asked like how can people get up to speed. So talk to people high level, like what the course is hoping to achieve.
Yeah. So a little bit of context. Alex and I started a company together in February, and it was essentially like AI consulting and helping brands like build workflows and agents within the creative ops process. Along those lines, we realized like, okay, AI is the most important skill that people need to learn. Alex was asking like, what should I do with AdCrate? Which AdCrate is his performance agency. They got like 35 employees or something along those lines. And I told him, I'm like, dude, the most important thing that you could do is just teach them and get them to be experts at using AI, whatever they are, a video editor, a creative strategist, a designer. They need to know the fundamentals of AI within creative strategy. And if they all know that, they'll be fine, and you'll be fine as a company. Because they'll be able to do so much more as individuals. And he's like, okay, like let's set up trainings for it. So we sat down and like mapped out this, like all the important information that creative strategists and people on the creative ops team would need to know. And then we just like a few weeks later, it was like we were about to start this program, and I brought up the idea to Alex of like, should we just offer to have other people essentially like tune in and be able to listen and take the exact information that we would teach the AdCrate team and just offer it as like a program. And so there were 8 different sessions that we had come up with. We like the morning of the Make Ads That Convert webinar, we were like debating like, do we bring it up? We ended up bringing it up that day, so a couple of months ago, and ended up having, I think, like 350 or so different brands and agencies be a part of this 8-week program that we are doing. We only have 2 weeks left. And so we're coming up on the final presentations. But yeah, nonetheless, I mean, it covered everything from like, here's where we're at with AI, covered prompt engineering, context engineering, how to build like custom GPTs and cloud projects, and you know, the ins and outs of that, how to use VO, how to use image gen, our processes, and now we the last few weeks we've been diving into like building AI workflows on tools like Gumloop or N8N to actually start to automate some of the creative processes that exist. So yeah, it's been a ton of fun to go through that, and I think, you know, people have gotten a lot of value out of it.
Awesome, man. Honestly, really good timing with the make ads that convert, get it out there, people hear about it, and then you guys would have distribution anyways, but it lines up so well.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm curious about is the course isn't wrapped up. First of all, type of people who are taking it. So it's like, have you noticed there's a common theme in like the type of titles of the people who are taking the course?
I'd say a lot of creative strategists. We've really been
Nice.
like gearing it up towards like the creative strategists on the team. And I mean, it's fun. Like we've had creative strategists from Caraway, Jones Road Beauty, Groons. Like a lot of like top emerging D2C brands have put their teams through this. So yeah, it's pretty sweet.
I love it, man. And something that I'm personally curious about is like when we think about AI expertise, it is a spectrum. When I think of you and Alex, I'm like, okay, top tier at the top there. So it's like if they build a course, it's probably with that in mind. What I'm curious about is, was there something that was like stupid simple that you might have overlooked, but seemed to resonate so much with the audience?
Yeah, you know, that's a good question. I think like the biggest takeaway that maybe is like, and you hear it all the time. Like it honestly kind of hurts the soul to say it, but it is very true. And I think it's if you haven't heard it yet, it's a good reminder. But Alex mentioned it, of he's never seen someone that didn't know how to create a good ad without AI create a good ad using AI. And so I think like that more than anything, if you don't understand the fundamentals of creating ads and actually what works, don't try to just like use AI to do it, because it's not going to get you anywhere. And I think that was like a really big eye opener for people, of like, AI is really the thing that should scale you, not the thing that like helps you go from like 0 to, you know, 90. AI is really the thing that like takes you from like 90 to then, you know, infinity, which is fun. But you can't skip just like the 0 to 90 phase, and you need to know the fundamentals of creating ads before you can really get into the AI world.
This is so interesting. You've been working with brands forever now, like in different capacities. So what I'm curious about is through the course, through the agency side, through just like your own consulting, are there like a top 3 areas that brands are dropping the ball, you'd say? It could be related to AI, it could be related to creative strategy, but just in general?
Yeah, you know, I would say the first one that comes to my mind is like, maybe not dropping the ball, but I think there is such a massive arbitrage right now for AI generated content that like looks unrealistic, or looks realistic, but it's unrealistic. Like for example, there was a video that I saw, and it was actually like, can I share screen? Is that a
Yeah,
thing?
man. Yeah, yeah,
Cool.
yeah.
So like
Definitely.
I can show you some examples of like this kind of unrealistic realistic approach, um, so people can get a better grasp of what I am talking about. So let me share my screen. So this is like so I was just thinking through the perfect gene, and something like this. Obviously, you could never shoot. Um, can you hear the audio or no?
Yeah.
So it's like having someone in the Oval Office with like a pair of jeans framed on the wall. It's something that could like never be shot in real life, but like is just interesting enough to where people are gonna like stop and be, you know, curious. Like this is another really good one. Like, you know, a guy walking in cardboard pants to illustrate like the pain point. Again, hard to pull off in real life. This one was pretty funny too. So again, like stuff like that, you're never going to be able to shoot in real life, or would be very challenging to shoot in real life. And yet, like you can do it with AI. And so, like for your company, figure out where the figure out where that opportunity could exist for your company, because like those have been absolutely ripping for like hooks on ad accounts that I know Alex has a few examples of just where they've been absolutely crushing. So people are really intrigued by AI generated content these days, which helps with just performance overall. I would say the other thing so that's a very tactical one, more high level. AI implementation and AI strategy has to come from the top down. Like I truly think it has to be the executives, one, having a stance on AI of what they want and how people should be using it within the organization and how they shouldn't be using it within the organization. I see too many companies today where that hasn't been clearly communicated. And so you're going to have some people that are using it really well, some people that aren't necessarily, or like don't have that much experience. And that, in my opinion, is extremely unfair, because like, yes, there is that personal responsibility that you should be taking, but also everyone has jobs and they have tasks within the organization. So having to go and learn like a whole nother, what feels to be this massive skill set is I don't think fair to put on the employee. And so I think top down, like you have to be giving them the resources, you have to be giving them the instructions on what to do. If they actually go through and do it, like then that's up to them. But the overall like true AI implementation and AI expectations should be happening from the top down. And I don't see that enough today.
So interesting. So when you are talking to those teams, are you mainly talking to like the people at the top and being like, yo, you got to support the team here? Like they need your help. Like how are they going to fit this in?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because it's just like I talked about, everyone has so many different hats and tasks and roles that they have to be doing, that it's employees aren't going to take it up on themselves. And so, yeah, we like to work with leadership to just be like, hey, here's how you should think about like creating a stance. Here are some options for what you can do for like upskilling and training your employees. Again, if they actually go through and do it or not, like that's on the employee's discretion. But like they need to be provided the opportunities and situations to have that learning and upskilling.
Huge, man. What got you so interested in AI and especially being so early to it?
Yeah, I would say I've always been a creative person, but I never learned like Premiere Pro. I never learned like Adobe. I never learned photography or videography skills. I was always so interested by it, but I'm like, if I wanted to become, really good at knowing how to shoot and edit videos, like that's a full-time job right there. And if I wanted to learn how to design things really well in Canva, like that's a full-time design there. And so when I started to realize that AI was just going to allow people like me who are creative, but maybe not like technically creative, to just be able to generate whatever we wanted, and like truly our minds and our ideas would be the limitation that would exist. That was so exciting to me, because like I think about how many artists exist in the world today, from anything like a film production. Like imagine, a 6-year-old being able to generate a Disney movie in just from like describing the story that they want. Like that's so cool and powerful. Imagine someone that, never grew up with the ability to like record music, can just like go into a tool like 11 Labs or Suno or any of the other ones, and like start to create really good music just that they normally wouldn't have had access to, or someone that wants to be like a really good like photographer, being able to just like imagine the picture that they want in their head and create it that way, versus like needing a $12,000 camera or a $15,000 camera or whatever it might be. Like those limitations are no longer going to exist. And so when I realized that, it was like, man, I think this is going to be like truly, we are going to enter into a whole new renaissance era of what we are going to be creating, because like budget and production capabilities and being realistic is no longer going to be a barrier to this space. So that's what got me really excited. Like I think there's a world in which companies are going to be coming out with like Netflix quality TV shows and like maybe incorporate their product in it in some way, shape, or form. But like it's just like good entertainment. And I think like the same thing with like a movie. Like, you know, Motion could come out with this entire movie around whatever they wanted, and like that's so much more fun than like trying to think of like the boring. And Motion has done a really good job with content in general, but like that's so much more entertaining than 95% of the like corporate content that gets created today. Like I think we truly, as a society, have been quite boring, and as a business society, have been quite boring with like the content that we've made. And I think AI is just gonna make it so like anything is possible.
What motivates you to keep chugging along?
You know, I don't know. Again, I kind of just feel like it's being an entrepreneur is something that like I think I was just born to do, and so like work genuinely doesn't feel like work to me. Like I have never had a Sunday where, you know, maybe during the times when we had to wind down the startup, but you know, for the past year, I haven't had a single Sunday where I'm like, oh no, I have to go to work again. Like it's literally the opposite of where it's like Friday afternoon and it's like, oh man, like I gotta wait till Monday or whatever before I get to really start working a lot. So yeah, I mean, I think I'm just again different than 99% of like the people in that, and I think I'm super fortunate to have found what I truly love to do and feel like I was made to do. And so yeah, now I just get to live that out and see where it's going to take me.
I love that, man. Why I asked you is like someone asked me that recently too, and I think like the best answer I could come up with is like I find this so fun.
Yeah,
Like it's a lot of fun, and like the dopamine hits stack. And
yeah.
I also I have to work on it, of course, but a lack of patience if it's in my control. So
Mm,
as soon as it's in my control, there's like okay, this is fun. Plus I can do so much of it. Like I'm going to
yeah,
try and run to it at that point.
yeah,
So when I read between the lines, like there's an element of fun that comes from this, and like the
totally.
dopamine hits are so impactful.
Totally.
In
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. I mean, I think that's like one of my big recommendations for anyone listening is like, I do think, you know, work is never going to be perfect. There's always going to be things that we don't like doing or that we maybe don't look forward to doing. But I think like a really good rule of thumb is try to find where you're at like 80% of what you like, you know, 4 out of the 5 days, like you like what you are doing. Um, because life is too short to just like spend a third of your life doing something that you don't like doing or that you're not excited to wake up to in the morning. And I think like when you have passion to do something, it's going to take you way further than if you're just like doing it for the money or doing it for the paycheck or whatever it might be. So whatever you're passionate about, like why not just go out and try to figure out how to make it a thing? Because yeah, I mean, life is going to go by fast, and at the end of the day, like we can't take anything with us, and so you know, you might as well enjoy the journey.
Yeah, man. The passion piece is quite interesting. Sorry, I was gonna wrap it up, but like these are always interesting things
Yeah,
to dive into. But when I think about the passion piece, what I am curious about is like what are you passionate about? Because I'm just like how that recommendation, I have opinions on like the recommendation of young
yep,
people working your passion. I'm like, what would
yep.
you describe your passion as?
Yeah, I honestly think it's like so I grew up playing sports, played sports pretty much my whole life, and I just and I love sports. Like you want to know my one guilty pleasure? It's like anything NFL, college football, NBA. Like I spend way too much time and have emotional investment into Minnesota sports. Um, but I think what I loved about sports growing up is like one, you got to work with a lot of people. Like I love team sports in particular. So I love the idea of like having a team, having people that you get to do things with. So number one is like, so that's kind of one component. And then the next thing is like you're all trying to work towards this shared goal. And I love that idea of like one thing I love about sports is like you can put everything else aside, who you are, your political views, you know, how much money you have, like whatever. It's like sports fans in general, it's like they all just like, that is like a connection piece. And I've also loved that idea, and like they all want the same thing. Like they all want the championship. Like that's what they care about. That's what's going to unify them. And so I've come to realize that I think like what I love doing in this world is just building and working on cool things with like a cool outcome, with cool people. And it's like if I could be in just situations where that happens, and I think entrepreneurship is the most the overlaps between sports and entrepreneurship, I think are astounding. And so I think it's just like it was such an easy gravitation for me to realize like, okay, we can try to like form and work with people that we really like, and we all get to try to work towards like this shared vision, regardless of where we came from or where we're at. Like we're all just trying to get to that point. And I love that in general. And so yeah, I don't know, that's kind of what
That makes me so happy. That makes me so happy, man.
Yeah.
You've been so generous with your time. I have one final question that I ask everybody who joins me on stream.
Yep.
And the question is, if you don't have one, immediately throw it to me first. I can jump in. But
Okay.
Do you have a favorite quote? And if so, why is it your favorite quote?
Ooh. I'll throw it to you first. Let me think
Cool.
on what it could be.
So I've been using this one. Honestly, the quotes change depending on the flavor of life and the stage of life and the things that I'm going through. But one of the ones I'm leaning into right now is a Derek Jeter quote, speaking of sports, right? And his quote is preparation builds poise, poise builds confidence, confidence changes everything. And that to me like hits every element of life right now. You want to try and be as prepared as possible. So like you're saying, study up, know exactly what you got to do. Then you got to get the reps in, and those reps will start to give you some poise. And once you get enough reps in, you get good enough at it, that's what leads to confidence. And as soon as everyone knows this feeling, like if we tie it back to sports, like you see Anthony Edwards on the court, no one's touching this guy, right? So that confidence takes you to the next level. So that's when I've been really tapping into with my team, with my life, everything, in all honesty.
Yeah. No, I love that. That's a good one. That's a really good one. Man, I would have to say, so I mean, I know we've talked about this a little bit, but like I am a believer, and so my probably favorite quote unquote quote would be a Bible verse. The Bible verse that I'd say like honestly changed my life. Well, it's Psalm 139, verse 23 and 24, which is, search me, God, and know my heart. Test me and know my anxious thoughts. See if there's any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. And really just like what that means for me is like every day to one, invite God into just like my life and what I'm working towards, and making sure that like I'm working for the right reasons and not the wrong reasons. Two, just like pointing out anything that I might be doing, wrong. And then finally, just like helping me focus on eternity. So that's a Bible verse that I long story on that one that I won't dive into, but I heard it at just the right time. That honestly changed my life. And so that's probably always been my favorite.
Jimmy, this is incredible, man. Any final words you want to leave with the audience today?
I don't think so. Just if you have any AI questions, like hit me up. I'm always happy to answer or dive into anything in more detail. But no, appreciate everyone being here. This was a ton of fun, Evan. Thank you for inviting me and having me on.
Man,
Too bad Alex didn't join, but nonetheless,
we got to figure it out. Yeah, we got to figure it out. No, but Jimmy, I always appreciate our chats, man. I always appreciate our chats. You're the man. And yeah. I'll plug him. Anybody, I got to pull up his Twitter. You guys got to tap in. All right. If I can pull it up here. So when he says, and he puts it out, the ask, if you have AI questions, definitely got to hit the boy up.
Yes. Hit me up.
There he is.
Always down to chat.
There he is. Jimmy, I appreciate you, man. Enjoy the rest of your day. We got to run this back at some point, but I appreciate you, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. All right, Evan. Thank you. See ya.
Later. Bye. Oh, man. Everybody. Yeah, I've always appreciated hanging out with Jimmy and Alex. Unfortunately, we couldn't get Alex. We were running into some technical difficulties, so hopefully can bring him back another time. But Jimmy, I've always loved our chats. He's somebody who just like cuts straight to the chase. You might have like, I don't know, 3 minutes of small talk, then you're in it. Business. So entrepreneurship in his heart. Something that I love that he clarified right at the end there was the idea of passion. So working in your passion. So something that really resonates with me is like, I think it can get convoluted when you're just saying work in your passion, because basically it could be, I don't know how to describe it, but like passion is sometimes described as a thing. So what I used to understand is just like growing up. It's like my passion was basketball, the same way Jimmy described his passion was sports. And it's so easy to say work in sports, work in basketball. But really the work that's required is to unpack why you liked that thing and classified it as a passion. So Jimmy did a really good job of saying community and teamwork, working towards a team goal. And even for myself, when I thought of passion, like the thing for me is like, if I can consistently have the autonomy to solve problems the way that I want to, gives me so much joy. So it almost is irrelevant the type of problem that I'm tackling. There are things that I'm better at than others, for sure. Than other things, like I'm not super technical by any means, but that passion is like, I just need to be solving a problem. If it's in marketing, that's great. If it's in finance, awesome. If it's in like creator economy, so be it. But I think like unpacking and doing the work to understand why something gives you such a joy is such a necessary step along the journey for all of us. And Jimmy did a really great job of outlining that. Amazing, y'all. Well, this, as you know, has been so fun. I love these conversations selfishly, even just for myself. So if you've enjoyed this conversation too and want to keep tapping in, what I will say is give us a follow at ThumbstopLive, at ThumbstopLive, at ThumbstopLive on X. We are streaming every day from Monday to Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern to 1 p.m. Eastern, and having guests that you know and love. Tomorrow, I got a couple of my guys that I'm super excited to talk through and their opinions in the world. We're going to have Dan from Marpipe joining us, and then we're going to have Aaron, not from Fermat anymore, but Aaron Orendorf has such an interesting story that I'm excited to get into with you all. So everybody, this has been a blast. I appreciate your eyes and ears. I will catch you at the next one with Dan and Aaron, so hit us up, but enjoy the rest of